What's happening, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. We've got UFC 291 coming up this Saturday, headlined by Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier for the next iteration of the BMF belt, which nobody cares about. But these are a couple of BMFs here. Gaethje, all-action fights. Dustin Poirier, all-action fights. Putting them together in the same main event. These guys have already fought. They went to war for 4 rounds, back and forth war, awesome fight. And this one promises to be exactly the same thing. And this is a really fun card from top to bottom. The matchmakers did a fantastic job. They didn't overload us with unnecessary fights. There are no fights that don't belong on this card. Everybody on this card is exciting. Everybody on this card should put on fun fights. The matchmaking's fantastic. The pay-per-view portion of it has got a lot of high-level scraps on it. So I'm here for it. I'm ready to break down these fights with you guys. It's going to be a really fun week. And I've got way more action than I'm used to having this early in the week. Definitely some spots sticking out. I beat the shit out of some line movement this week, so I'm very happy about that. But this is going to be a really fun card to break down. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you and the chat. Let's first talk about last week. Last week was a small loss for me. I was down 0.92 units. All 3 of the time props that I had lost. So I had 1 unit on the under 1.5 rounds for Paul Craig versus Andre Muniz. It finished in the second round, but it went over 7.5 minutes. So that was a plus 100 bet, did not work, or plus 135 bet, didn't work out. I also had the under 2.5 rounds in Jai Herbert versus Fares Ziam. I got it at plus 165. It closed around plus 115, plus 120. Beat a lot of line movement on that. Got a really good price on it, but it didn't come even close to finishing. And also had fight goes to decision for Diakese versus Alvarez. That was an excellent bet at plus 185. It didn't cash due to referee incompetence. There was a headbutt, blatant headbutt by Joel Alvarez. And because of the headbutt, it dropped Diakese, and Alvarez got to work his submission game. And referee Dan Movaheady, the incompetent ref that he is, didn't see the headbutt, let the fight go on, and let Joel Alvarez get that victory. So that fight was cruising towards actually going the distance, but the headbutt changed everything there. So that was a good bet. It's a bet I'd make again. The analytics really liked it, but didn't work out. So down 3 units on my time prop bets. And then I had a 1.5 unit parlay with the Fares Ziam and Mahmoud Muradov money lines. That was that was a win of how many units? Doesn't even say on here, but I think it was a couple of units. Yeah, it was 2.08 units that I won on that one. So I wound up being down 0.92 units on the week. Snapped a 3-week winning streak, but I'm looking to start up another winning streak this week, and I've definitely got a lot of action on tap. Wanted to see what's going on with you guys in the chat right now before we get into these fights. Please take note that the address for the Patreon is scrolling there on the bottom. All the stats that you see in these videos are available on the Patreon. $10 a month for the advanced stats, $20 a month for the prop template. And I'll give you guys a sneak peek a little bit later on about what I'm doing with prize picks content going forward. Brady and I have got a plan to put together a show that's basically going to be probability that you see on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, but it's going to be more in depth, where we not only deal with the time props, but we're going to be dealing with significant strike props, takedown props, and fantasy score props, because I have a tremendous amount of information in my database that allows me to be able to provide some really unique analytics that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else, in order to help you make really good data-driven decisions in your prize picks and underdog bets. So I'm really looking forward to showing that to you guys as well. But wanted to say what's up to everybody that's hanging out here on the show with us tonight. Bananas and Grapes in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, dude? Good to see you in here." We got Smokestack saying money to be made, and you got that right. I'm looking to make a lot this weekend. Kristen is in the room saying, "Oi, can't wait to hear your thoughts on this intriguing card." I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. I've got a lot of notes here. I'm ready to go. I've got all 12 of these fights broken down from nose to toes, from east to west. I'm ready to break it down with you guys. Looking forward to it. Go Flamingo, my guy in the room. I say Weezy, you say oi. Weezy, Weezy, Weezy. Oi, oi, oi. Let's go. Good to see you hanging out. And here we got my guy Lou Betya, who absolutely crushed it last week. After a 10-plus unit weekend, I received a call from the American icon himself, Johnny Bygard Parsons. He said he will take a break from harassing you until the next fight announcement. I appreciate that from Johnny. He's a good man to let me off the hook. Definitely picked Danny Roberts. Didn't bet Danny Roberts. Didn't have any money on that fight. But congrats to Johnny Parsons. Flew all the way across the pond to the country that we got independence from back in the 18th century. He went there. He had a really rough weight cut. He missed weight the first time, made weight the second time, then goes out there and shaves the ass of Danny Roberts in the second round with 2 seconds left in the second round, breaks the DraftKings slate. Absolutely great performance by Johnny Bygod Parsons, and I know that my guy Lou Betya probably cashed the shit out of that. And Go Flamingo is saying that, Kristen, yeah, this is going to be a banger card. Poirier and Gaethje is going to be one for the ages. How could it be bad? How could that fight suck? It's almost impossible. We got Dix Insider in the room saying, "Oi, Prophet Weezy, mirror on the wall. Let's stack those tickets like a tamal. Let's go, baby. Let's go." And word on the streets is that the Black Beast is starting to tickle your fancy. Well, we will be talking about that. I went in depth on that fight, breaking that one down today, watching tape, looking at the stats, looking at the career records of both guys. And I have come to a conclusion and made a bet that I will tell you guys about in a little bit. We got Billy Nicholson in the room saying Tony Ferguson by sub 12-1, plus Luis de Lima over 1.5 rounds, plus AP by KO at plus 165. 89 or 88, 57-1. That's a big line there. Let's see if he can cash that really ambitious parlay there. Luis de Lima over 1.5 rounds plus money. AP? Who's AP this week? Any P last names? Nope. Alex Pereira by KO. Okay, yeah, I like it. Those are things that can absolutely happen. Tony Ferguson by sub might be a little bit of a long shot, but hey, man, it's El Cucuy. We got Alex Ramirez, the general, is in the room taking notes. What's up, dude? We got Kristen saying agreed to Go Flamingo. My guy Marcus Williams, Nubian Bookstore, Moro, Georgia, in the room. My guy, I know that he joined me on the Sergey Spivak money line. I'm 2 units deep on it. I know he got a better price than I did. I got 165 or 160. I forget which. He got 170. Definitely there with Sergey Spivak. I think he's going to throw Gon around like a rag doll. Really looking forward to that one. We got Dixon in the room saying, "Dear Prophet, will you please consider adding Isaac Pitbull Cruz to TKO Giovanni Cabrera in boxing Saturday at minus 300 to the greasy 4-leg parlay, or does it have to be MMA only?" It's got to be MMA only because I'm putting it together. And because I'm putting the parlay together, it means that you're getting somebody who's putting the parlay together who knows less than nothing about boxing right now, because all my work goes into the UFC. So, but I'm gonna the Isaac Pitbull Cruz looking to shave the ass of Giovanni Cabrera minus 300 could be a parlay piece for this weekend, says my guy Dixon. We got Lou saying, "If Marcus makes a bet, I pay attention. He drops heat bombs." Yeah, dude, Marcus is on fire. Amir Albazi money line. He's got Marcus Rogerio de Lima's money line this week. And then he hit Pantoja for plus 160, I want to say. And then there was another bet before that I'm not remembering that he cashed on just huge. So yeah, Marcus Williams is a really good guy to tail. This guy kind of keeps it small in terms of he's not throwing out 10 bets a week. He finds good value spots and he fucking smashes them. So yeah, shout out Marcus Williams, Nubian Bookstore. The dude is a shark. We got SD Crusader in the room saying Mark Joel was at even live odds right before the headbutt. Yeah, I know, man. That I thought that fight had a good chance of going the distance, and had it done that, had that headbutt been caught by Movaheady, it either would have been a no contest, so I would have gotten my unit back, which means it would have been an up day, or it could have went the distance and then been, an even better day. But yeah, if that's the game we play, these things happen, and it wasn't intentional or anything like that. There was no malicious intent. It was just, referee incompetence, and that's part of the game that we play. I'm tailing 100% of your plays this week, says Dixon to Lou Betya. We got Teron Brown in the room saying, what's up, Uncle? What's up, Teron? Thanks for hanging out. We got Matt Campbell saying, oi, MMA YouTube's favorite uncle. What's up, Matt? Thanks for hanging out. We got Lou saying, I don't want to bet Lewis, but I may have to if the line gets over plus 200. Yeah, plus 200 is just getting ridiculous for the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis here. At Lou Betya, good sir, the people demand props to consider and maybe bet. And I got Marcos at minus 120, says Marcus. Looking at betting Jan after the official weigh-ins. I regret not dropping some money on Michel Pereira when he was plus 185 when I got Marcus. Yeah, dude, when he got Marcos, Rogerio de Lima. Yeah, plus 185 is a fat line for Michel Pereira because that's a striker versus striker matchup, which means that there could be a little more variance involved. And then we do know that Pereira can mix in those takedowns and potentially win some minutes that way, maybe cap off a close round with a takedown. So there are some paths to victory here for sure for Michel Pereira. And then we got, Lou Betya tomorrow coming back to the MMA Engine YouTube channel, going to be interviewing Ben the Bane Davis for props to consider and maybe bet. Yeah, I didn't get a great Pereira line, but I'm with you on Jan. Yeah, I mean, Jan is a good look this week, I think. But, I don't have any money on that fight yet. And we got the general taking notes saying, plus, press the like button. We got Shane saying, hey, Uncle Weezy, please mention if you think the elevation will be a factor while breaking down each fight. Love the content as always. Definitely. Marcus saying that, Lou Betya, what is your Twitter? And did it for America, says SD Crusader. And it's same name. It's at Lou Betya, he's saying. MMA Jesus in the room. What's up, dude? Let's go. Weezy says, what's up, Jesus? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Gogo saying, at Lou Betya, amazing. Let's abuse some bookies. MMA Jesus saying, Alex Pereira, yes. I got Ferguson by KO, says Ron Brown. He's picking Jan. We got MMA Jesus. He's got T. Ferguson by decision. Teron Brown, everyone counting out Jan. Don't know why. He's 40 years old. I think that's part of the narrative why people are shorting him a little bit this week. But it's a closely lined fight. They're definitely not counting him out. But with Alex Pereira, you're stepping into the cage with a guy who could be losing 13 and a half minutes of the fight and then land one big shot and win it. So, Pereira is very, very, very dangerous. Jan going to prove some people wrong this Saturday. KO Alex, he's saying. Alex there. Adam saying, Weezy thoughts on Poirier, 18-1 round 4 and 30-1 round 5. Don't hate it at all. I'm expecting violence in that fight, and I'm kind of expecting it like in the third or the fourth round. So I don't mind those spots. I think that's a 50-50 fight, and I think it's going to be an absolute war like every Justin Gaethje fight is. Danny Sue in the room saying, oi, good to catch the live stream. What's up, dude? We got Jenna Marie saying, oi, Weezy. What's up, Jenna? We got Victor De Jesus saying, oi. Yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Teron saying, I think Lewis going to get knocked out round 1. Definitely a possibility. Nah, Lewis KO round 1, says MMA Jesus. Teron Brown saying people acting like Alex didn't just get knocked out last fight. Yes, he did. Loving Bobby this weekend. I could see a finish. All right. And we got Zen Monkey in the room. What's up, Zen Monkey? We got MMA Jesus saying 3 months ago, out cold was Alex Pereira. Yes, sir. Teron Brown is picking Gaethje and ring-a-ding-ding. My guy Marcus Williams showing some love. Keep up the good work. I appreciate the donation, brother. It means a lot. Help keep the lights on here in your Uncle Weezy's studio for just the tip. You guys, let's get down to work. We got 12 fights to break down on this phenomenal card, UFC 291, that's going to be headlined by Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. All the stats that you're going to see on this show, they can be obtained at my Patreon. Like I say, $10 a month. Appreciate anybody. Appreciate people like Marcus Williams and my guy Gogo Flamingo saying, do I have an early read on Khamzat versus Costa? Yes. The fight will be announced at 185 pounds, and then both of these guys will show up on fight week at 225. And then the UFC will tell them both to their chagrin, oh, go ahead and fight. We don't care. We know both of you guys are complete unprofessional pricks who don't take this shit seriously and never make weight. And then they're going to be like, oh, shit, we thought we were going to be able to not fight. So I don't know, man. I don't think the fight happens because Paulo Costa's in it. And if it's at 185, maybe Khamzat makes weight, but I don't think the gourmet Chechen is ever getting to 170 again. And yeah, this is going to be a really fun one to talk about, but I highly doubt that it happens. But I mean, I would have to go with Khamzat. I mean, I know Paulo Costa has really good takedown defense, but I'd be interested to see if he was put on his back, how easy it's going to be to hold him down there. And somebody like Khamzat, who's just incredible on the ground. And we've got Sneery is saying, what's up, talk me out of switching my pick to Zombie Girl. We're going to talk about that fight. And then my guy Kiwi got his ticket to UFC 293. Oh, dude, have a good time going up to that event. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So let's get to work, you guys. I'm going to share my screen with you here. And we've got the stats up right now for Miranda Maverick versus Priscila, the Zombie Girl, Cachoeira. This is a great way to start off the card. And let me get the lines up here for you guys. We got Miranda Maverick. All these lines are courtesy of Bet Online Sportsbook. We got Miranda Maverick, the favorite, -270. We got the Zombie Girl, +230. And the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -135 for this fight. So let's first start talking about the advantages for Miranda Maverick here. And there are several. Miranda's almost 9 years younger than Priscila Cachoeira. She's the southpaw in this southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Miranda is the better minute winner in the striking exchanges. She's got a positive 1.68 distance striking differential with almost 64% distance striking defense, while Cachoeira has a negative 2.46 distance striking differential, and she's got a pretty bad 52.3% distance striking defense. So while this fight is at distance striking range, it's going to be Miranda who's in and out, who's going to be throwing more volume, and who's going to be a lot more defensively responsible. And Miranda is the better wrestler and submission grappler, and she's illustrated an ability to be able to win minutes and moments with that part of her game at the UFC level. Miranda gets 2.23 takedowns per 15 minutes on 4.13 attempts. And she only wins 43% of the control time positions that she's been in. So she's not the most efficient grappler, but she's faced some really good wrestlers and grapplers in Erin Blanchfield, Jillian Robertson, and Jasmine Jazz Devicius. And when she's fighting ladies who are primarily strikers, she usually goes to the wrestling and grappling and wins minutes with it, like we saw in the Shanna Young fight, in the Macy Barber fight, in the Sabina Mazo fight. And she out-grappled Jillian Robertson and out-controlled her on the way to a unanimous decision win. So I think it's clear that Maverick will be the better minute and moment winner in the grappling exchanges in this fight. And Miranda has fought and beaten the better win-loss ratioed competition at the UFC level. Maverick got robbed in the Barber fight, so if you turn that result from a loss to a win, her wins look way better than Cachoeira's. The common opponent is Jillian Robertson between these two, and Maverick beat her by a unanimous decision, and then Robertson subbed Cachoeira in the first round after Priscila unsuccessfully tried to gouge Jillian's eyes out, not once, but twice. So let's talk about the Priscila Cachoeira advantages. A, she's willing to cheat for your money. So if you got money on her and things aren't going her way, you could be like cage side and yell, Priscila, cheat. And she'll cheat. She'll cheat. She'll do whatever it takes to try to get back into that fight. She's going to fight for your money. She's going to cheat for your money. She's going to try to land big shots for your money and put her opponent out cold. So she's always somebody that's a decent dog to back because you know what you're going to get from her. She's also 4 inches taller than Miranda Maverick. And she's a predictable fighter, Priscila Cachoeira is. She's going to walk forward with her right hand cocked and ready to fly. She throws everything with 100% power. She isn't going to offensively wrestle or grapple, especially not in this spot. And she's mean. She's powerful. She refuses to fuck off. And the longer you stand in front of Priscila Cachoeira, the worse it gets for you. Priscila has the power, the meanness, and the durability advantages here, in my opinion. But Miranda is taking this fight on short notice. Cachoeira has had a horrible time making weight lately. She's botched 3 weight cuts in the last couple of years. So seeing Priscila on the scales is going to be very important information this time around. I like Miranda here. She's defensively responsible and active on the feet. She's the better wrestler and submission grappler, and she's demonstrated the ability to get fights to the ground, and she has the ability to be able to win minutes and moments there. If she gets tired or can't get takedowns, I do see Cachoeira's pressure and power getting to her. I think I'm going to refrain from making any bets on this fight until I see both fighters on the scale, but I think Cachoeira's finish-only prop at plus 275 isn't a bad look at all if you think she can stay safe from the submissions of Maverick, because Priscila has fantastic power for a flyweight, and Miranda's taking the fight on short notice. I'm going to pick Miranda Maverick, though, to win this fight by decision. So let's go to Tapology here, and I'll just make my picks along with you guys so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going with Miranda Maverick to win this fight by decision over one of my favorite fighters in the whole UFC, Priscila Cachoeira. She always puts on good fights, but she's had a really hard time getting to the scale in good shape recently. So I'm hoping that this fight happens because it's going to be an exciting one. Priscila always brings it, and Miranda's still a very young prospect who is going to be making improvements in her MMA game, and we can expect a lot of good things from her going forward, I think. All right, so let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here about that. Let's see. We got David Dennett in the room saying, let's go. Can't wait to see Highlight do his thing, man. I love Justin Gaethje. I love both of those guys. We got MMA Jesus in there with some interesting emojis. Looks like caveman emoji. Or no, those are zombies. Those are zombies. And he's talking about that zombie girl. Smash the like, says my guy Dix Insider. We got Tone Miggins in the room saying, catch a beating, KO late. Let's go, man. That could absolutely happen. And Priscila Cachoeira by knockout is never a bad spot, especially when she's already a big underdog, because you're going to get a fat plus money number, and it's definitely her best win condition at this level. We got Jay Call in the room saying Cachoeira has an elite running uppercut. Yeah, when she sticks that uppercut and that straight right is when she gets those knockouts. Silly Goose in the room saying, got 1 unit on Priscila finish only at plus 275. Miranda's the better fighter, but doesn't sell out for the finish. And I like that look, man. Plus 275 for Priscila Cachoeira, because you know she's not going to quit, and she will cheat. Like I say, like she'll grab your hair. She'll give you an oil check. She'll go to the wall for you and your money. So yeah, I do like the finish only prop. Priscila Cachoeira is very durable. Sneery is saying, good call on waiting until the scales. We got to see Priscila on the scales, and it's short notice for Miranda too. So there could be potentially be issues there. So I think we always do our best gambling when we go to the window with the most possible information. And I think that necessary information is how these ladies look on the scale on Friday. Sneery is saying, watching Maverick's film didn't sit well with me, but it could have been her obnoxious corner man. That might be. Jared saying, has Miranda been been posted anywhere? Also, yes, I believe it has. Let's look at Bet Online, because they're always first to market with props. And martial arts, MMA, UFC 291, Maverick, by submission, plus 150. That is not a lot of meat on the bone, my friend. Not a lot. Maverick is training at elevation. I think Maverick might actually be training in Florida right now. She usually trains at Team Elevation, but I thought that she might be training with Jillian Robertson in Florida. I thought I had heard somebody say, don't quote me on that. I'm talking about what I heard somebody else say recently, but it is a possibility that she's not in Denver for this camp. And we got Addicted to Combat, my guy Patrick in the room saying, happy BMF week. Enjoy golf this week. Yeah, I'm going on a golf trip with my some fraternity brothers from way back in the day this weekend. So Thursday morning at the crack of dawn, the alarm goes off, and I'll be playing 54 holes of golf over 3 days if the old back holds up. So appreciate you, Patrick. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this one. We got Matt Campbell saying, is it possible Miranda is a fraud? She was everyone's favorite, and I don't quite see it. I don't think she's a fraud. She's very young. She's very young, and she's getting better. Tone saying, I like that a lot. I'm betting that after weigh-ins. There we go. Matt saying, I would say Miranda trains at elevation. Catch a beating does not. Yes, that's for sure. Catch a beating does not. Back in Justin also is Gogo Flamingo. Matt saying, I'm going to look again, but you may be right, Gogo Flamingo. Matt Jones saying, remember altitude and big octagon for betting this weekend, fellas. What's up, Unk? And Jared Curry, plus 150. Bet Online is refusing to let us stack these flapjacks, Unk. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, that's another reason we talked about this being at elevation in Salt Lake City. So let's see them on the scale. Because it not only could they have had bad weight cuts, but you mix that with high elevation, you're going to get fighters getting tired quicker. And, you know, it might mean more finishes. It might mean more lazy, kind of boring decisions because both fighters are tired. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a great card. And Dixon, he knows me too well. I can already see you on the golf course dressed like Al Zervik. My man, Rodney Dangerfield, rest in peace, one of the great comedians of all time and one of the iconic roles of all time, which was Rodney Dangerfield as Al Zervik in the classic Caddyshack. Got to get some plaid pants, got to get that awesome golf bag that he had with the stereo and the thing where it would shoot the clubs out, and then that putter with the scope, and it would tell you to beep when it was time to hit. Just great stuff there, man. I want all that stuff. I want to be Rodney Dangerfield on the golf course this weekend. All right, let's get to this next fight, though, man. We got Matt Semi the Jedi here, Semelsberger at minus 210 going up against Uros the Dr. Medic at plus 180. The fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, sitting at minus 260. So let's first start talking about Semi the Jedi here. Matt is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here over Uros. He's also a switch stance fighter facing a southpaw, which is an advantage statistically. And Matt is not a huge welterweight, and Uros Medic is coming up a weight class on short notice for this fight. So Matt is definitely going to have the size and strength advantage here. Matt has both the overall and the UFC experience advantages over Medic. He has 7 more pro fights. Almost 140 more minutes in the pro cage in a pro career that has lasted a year less than Uros Medic's. So Matt has also been the far more active fighter. Matt has more high-level experience as well with 5 more UFC fights and over 75 more minutes of octagon time. Medic has a career average fight time of 3.62 minutes, while for Semi it's 10.69. So Matt has demonstrated much better cardio and pacing than Uros in his career. So I'd have to give Matt the cardio advantage here for sure. And Matt has shown the ability to win minutes with his wrestling. Matt's 7 of 10 on his takedown attempts, which is really efficient. And even though he's only shown 52% takedown defense on 23 attempts against, he's still winning almost 44% of the control time positions he's been in. So he has excellent top control, ground and pound, and he gets back up when he gets taken down. Medic is definitely more of a kickboxer, so if Matt makes this a wrestling match early against the short notice opponent at elevation, he could really wear him down early and break him in the second or the third round. And Matt has fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of competition in his career, especially in the UFC. And then if you look at the striking numbers, The metrics look better for Medic overall, as he's got a positive significant strike differential and Matt's is negative. But look, Matt has got a 2.45 offensive significant strike knockdown percentage, and about 3% of his distance strikes over an 8-fight sample size are resulting in a knockdown. This guy's got 9 knockdowns, you guys, in 8 UFC fights. So there's a lot of power in the hands of Matt Semelsberger, and he's a very explosive athlete. So the guy just has natural power, it appears, and when he hits, it hurts. So I do like violence in this spot, because Uros Medic as well is a very dangerous kickboxer, you guys. He's got a positive 0.98 distance striking differential, does Medic, with almost 57% accuracy. He's got a 58.6% distance striking defense, and he's landed 3 knockdowns in 3 UFC fights, and he's finished both of his UFC wins inside the distance by way of knockout. Uros uses his length well. He's got power in his hands and in his kicks, and he's extremely accurate. So while this fight is on the feet and Uros is fresh, he's going to be extremely dangerous. But this is going to be a tough road to hoe for Uros Medic. He's been away from the cage now for over a year. We can see right here, at the time that I put this sheet together, the layoff was 1 year, 1 month, and 16 days. He's been away from the cage now for a long time, and he had surgery on his broken hand. He's taken this fight on short notice at elevation and up a weight class against a huge welterweight in Semelsberger, who's been out there in his last 4 fights against guys like Jeremiah Wells, Jake Matthews, Alex Morono, AJ Fletcher. So I'm betting on violence here, you guys. That's going to be the play for this fight. Medic has never been to a 3rd round in his entire career of 9 fights. Both guys have tremendous power early in fights. I max bet the fight doesn't go to decision on this fight, you guys. 5 full units. I've only done it 3 times this year, I believe. All 3 of them have hit. This opened at minus 160, and I gave this bet out on my Patreon. I do expect this fight to finish inside the distance, probably under 1.5 rounds. But I do see, Semi probably getting a finish here in the 2nd round after a close 1st round, because Medic is very dangerous early in fights. But I do like Semelsberger quite a bit here. If he doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he can wrestle. And I think his cardio has already been tested, and we know it's likely to be way better than Medic, who's a front runner with mostly 1st round finishes. So I'm picking Matt Semelsberger to win this one in the 2nd round by KO. So Semi the Jedi by KO here in round number 2 over Uros the Dr. Medic, who I'm a big fan of both of these guys. I mean, I like Uros Medic quite a bit, but I need to see him come back from this hand injury, need to see that hand hold up, and, up a weight class on short notice at elevation on an over a year layoff is a very, very tall order against a guy who's been as active as Semelsberger has, and who's fought the level of competition that Semelsberger has at the UFC level. So I do like Semelsberger to win this fight, and I parlayed him with somebody that we're going to talk about shortly on this card. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Yeah, Dixon Sider saying, yes, sir. Gogo saying, Jan and Dustin have been at Salt Lake for less than 2 weeks. This makes Gogo nervous. Yeah, I mean, look, we need to acclimate to that altitude. It makes a big deal. Derrick Lewis definitely going to gas out because of the elevation. He might pass out walking to the octagon. We got Jared saying, think the fight to end by KO could be a good look here. Covers majority of Priscila's win equity, while including some of Miranda's top game ground and pound. I like that as well. I think that's a good look. Tone saying Semelsberger KO round 2-3. Love it, Tone. Right there with you. At Teron Brown, yeah, that fight ain't going the distance. That's for sure. Semelsberger money line, Bonfim money line, minus 106, 3.5 units. Bet it Monday, plus 116 also. Yeah, that's a pretty safe parlay. I like both of those guys to win, Tone. I think you're going to be looking good on that one. Jared saying, look to same game parlay, 1+ total knockdown, and fight doesn't go here. Can't get to a side. I think it's a great play. Yeah. Tone Miggins, I'm on that as well for 2 units, says Silly Goose. Daz saying kind of like Medic more if it wasn't short notice. Yeah, I agree because he's very dangerous. Jared saying, I'm tempted by Medic if this line keeps widening, looking for plus 200. And Silly Goose saying, looking at betting the under 2.5 at minus 175. Yeah, I think that's not a bad look at all, dude. I think that this, Medic has never even seen a third round. So getting that bet at, like a 70% implied probability, there's nothing wrong with that. Or it's not even 70. I'm sorry. It's like a 63, 64% implied probability. It's not bad at all. Dixon, any chance on this fight looks like the semi versus Morono fight and goes to decision? A narrative I'm thinking of is, what if they both come out to more conservative than usual and fight to a decision to not gas? I think that they both hit so hard that even if they're conservative, they're going to land big shots, either one of them. So I do think that there's going to be violence here. Both of these guys are so dangerous. And then, they might slow down a little bit just to, try to pace themselves. But that's often a bad idea if your dance partner doesn't have a fight at the same pace. All right. Yeah. Semi would KO Morono. He did knock him down. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these guys that he's fighting are known for their durability. People like, Jake Matthews, who got knocked down 3 times in that fight. Morono is very durable. I don't think that we know as much about Uros Medic's durability as we do those guys. All right, so let's get back to the next fight right now, which is going to be CJ Vergara going up against Vinicius Salvador. We've got CJ Vergara minus 148 favorite on BetOnline. Vinicius, the underdog, plus 128. And the fight doesn't go to decision right now, juiced at minus 190 here. So let's first start talking about CJ Vergara and his advantages in this spot. CJ has the experience advantage. Even though he has 3 less fights than Vinicius, it's CJ who has 50 more minutes of pro cage time and almost 2 more years as a pro fighter. CJ also has 3 more fights at the UFC level against solid competition, and he has almost 35 more minutes of octagon time in comparison to Vinicius Salvador. And I like CJ's striking better than Vinicius's. CJ walks forward and he wears you out with his pressure. He throws meat and potatoes techniques. He mixes his weapons well. He's 51.5% accurate at distance, which is way better than Salvador's 33% distance accuracy. His faster down the pipe striking techniques will work better than Vinicius's unorthodox wide techniques, especially with CJ pressuring and closing the distance like we know we can count on him to do. And CJ's very efficient in the grappling exchanges, and that's an area of weakness he can choose to exploit against Salvador. CJ has attempted 0 UFC takedowns, and his opponents have attempted 24 against him. But CJ has 71% takedown defense, and he allows 2.17 takedowns per 15 minutes, but he isn't satisfied in bottom position, and he works hard to get back up. Somehow CJ finds a way to win 50% of his control time positions, despite being out takedown attempted 24-0 in his UFC career. So it's very interesting when we see somebody with 0 takedown attempts who's faced 24, but then gets just as much control time as his opponents do. It means that he's very hard to hold down, and that when he gets top position or clinch control, that he's much more likely to be able to stay there for a long period of time. More of a position over submission type of grappler is CJ. So he that's right now he's got 71% takedown defense, allowing 2.17. But basically everything outside of that Tyra fight, you guys, is he's done really well, and he's done really well at getting up and stuffing the takedowns that are coming his way. But he did fight Tatsuro Taira, and Tyra's grappling and back takes are phenomenal, and he just did not perform well there at all. But that's not what you have to worry about with Vinicius Salvador. And CJ's fought the way better brand of competition, not only in the UFC, but in particular on the regional scene, where Salvador did everything in his power to fight absolutely nobody with a pulse. Vinicius Salvador's advantages is that he's got nice measurables advantages against Vergara, as he's 5 years younger than CJ. He's 1 inch taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And he's also the southpaw in the southpaw versus orthodox matchup. So those are a lot of statistically significant advantages to have over your opponent, and Vinicius has several of those. And he's got a 100% career finish rate in his 14 pro wins. He's got 13 knockouts and 1 submission, so he's definitely a knockout artist. He's got very unorthodox striking cadence, and he utilizes unusual weapons, and when they land, he knocks dudes out. That power he has is what makes him such a dangerous opponent, because you don't know what this dude is going to do next. So this is going to be a really fun fight. Vinicius is a wild man on the feet. He throws unorthodox techniques, and CJ loves to wear his opponents down with pressure. We've seen CJ fight the much better level of competition thus far, and he also has power, but his gas tank and top control are much better than Vinicius. I'm going with CJ to win this fight fairly easily. He won't give Salvador the space he needs to unleash most of his arsenal, and Salvador isn't even close to technical enough to survive in the pocket while he's being backed up by CJ. I see CJ finishing Vinicius in the late second or third round by knockout, breaking Vinicius with his pressure. I parlayed CJ's money line with semis earlier in the week. I got plus 156, and I bet that for 1 unit. I said last time when Vinicius fought Victor Altamirano that I thought he was a fraud, and I feel the same way. So when somebody's fraudulent, I feel like I have to bet against them. And I'm not just doing it with somebody in CJ Vergara that I don't have faith in. I am very excited when I get an opportunity to bet on a guy who's a pressure fighter, and when that pressure fighter's opponent is somebody that needs space to be able to operate. Pressure is what really breaks fighters like Vinicius Salvador, because they need space to operate. They cannot throw those techniques while walking backwards. And CJ Vergara is definitely going to walk forwards. He's definitely going to have to mind his P's and Q's early in this fight. But I think that he's going to fraud check Vinicius Salvador, who has no good wins in his career. And CJ Vergara does have some good wins in his career. His regional scene wins are much better, and he's definitely fought the better level of competition at the UFC level. So, yeah, we're going with CJ Vergara to win this fight by a third round knockout, we'll say. We'll say that the pressure breaks Vinicius Salvador late in this fight. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Wonder Boy and Poirier Parlay says TM. We got Tone saying Justin highlight by decision plus 500, 3/4 of a unit there for Tone. Man, I hope that fight finishes inside the distance, because I'm going to be betting violence one way or another there. Matt Campbell saying we can't bet Vergara based purely on the haircut, or Weezy will send the orderlies. Yeah, we can't do that. Unrelated, but I think people need Daniel De Silva versus Cody Garbrandt at 125. Would actually pay money for that fight. Dude, Daniel De Silva, I don't care if he's 0-5. I don't care if he's 0-10. Keep putting him out there, man. The guy is always in awesome fights, so why not? He a fraud. He's a phony. My ass up. Yeah, dude, he is a fraud, man. I think he's a fraud. And when I usually say that I think someone's a fraud, I'm usually right. You know, I'm not usually right about anything in life. You know, but when I smell fraud, man, I'm usually right about that. You guys. Weezy, there are protests in the streets and favelas of Brazil because you disrespected the Ronaldo haircut. Word down there is that you're next to Colby Covington on their most wanted list. Yeah, first of all, they're pissed off at me because I called him Ronaldinho instead of Ronaldo, which is weird because Ronaldinho has weird fucking teeth too. And so I'm wondering if I got them mixed up, because tell me if I'm wrong here. Because Ronaldo's got those fucked up teeth, man, right? The big ass teeth, the big gap. But I feel like Ronaldinho also had fucked up teeth. And maybe that's why I mixed those two up. But I know Ronaldinho had a long head of hair, if I remember correctly, that he would be in braids. Or maybe it was like curly. I don't know. But yeah, I mixed them up, so they don't like me for that. But I don't think they're nearly as mad at me as they are at Colby Covington. But, you know, then again, Colby Covington's going out there and getting Polyana Viana, who's what? Brazilian. So they can't be that mad at him, right? I don't know. We got in bare knuckle at Jared Curry. Betting on a bad haircut is bad. It's definitely something you don't want to do. The one thing that scares me is CJ getting caught with a vicious Vinicius uppercut. Yeah, Vinicius can catch you for sure, dude. Vinicius is a very dangerous striker, but I think pressure is the way to fight that dude, and we know that CJ is going to pressure. So I think that makes him a really good bet here, because I think he's going to have Vinicius backing up the entire fight, and once his back is on that cage, that's when CJ is going to be in that pocket and doing his best work. Does Ferguson versus McGregor happen if he beats Green? No, it doesn't. I mean, Tony Ferguson doesn't move the needle anymore, I don't think. And I mean, Conor McGregor's never fighting again, you guys. Never. David Barista with the $2 donation saying Mezcal Margarita and UFC analysis. Good luck. Dude, a Mezcal Margarita sounds absolutely delicious right now. I'm going with Chicago tap water at the moment. No alcohol in the house right now, but there's going to be so much alcohol this weekend at the golf trip that I'm going to take it easy early in the week this week. Oh, yeah. I mean, most fucked up teeth in the UFC goes to Spivak. Google if you haven't seen. Yeah, I mean, he looks exactly like Nosferatu. And they got the long ass incisors so that they can suck the blood from the neck of their victims and then turn them into, vampires with eternal life. Look, man, Cyril Gane's going to be in trouble. Cyril Gane better try to get this fight happening during the daytime. Otherwise, Sergey Spivak by blood draw will be the pick. Win or loss, Tony should be forced to throw sand at the beach. That's right next to his 65 and up community. No more fighting, please. Correct. They both have large front teeth. Fun fact, the NFL field goal posts were inspired by the gap in between Ronaldo's teeth. I did not know that, but Dick's Insider always bringing the best news here. All right, you guys, we got to keep moving. We got Jake Matthews going up against Darrius Flowers. Chicago, stand up. Chicago fight team, stand up. Darrius Flowers making his UFC debut here. Let's get these stats up on the screen. And we're going to start talking first about the advantages of the Celtic Kid, Jake Matthews here. Jake is going to be the bigger dude in this spot. He's 2 inches taller, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage over Flowers. Jake has the experience advantage in this spot. He's got 6 more pro fights, over 110 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's got 4.5 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. He also has a significant high-level experience advantage here with 17 more fights at the UFC level and almost 200 more minutes in the UFC cage, as Darrius, like I said, will be making his UFC debut on Saturday. And Jake's got solid stand-up. He's got a positive 1.05 distance striking differential over 17 UFC fights, 37% accuracy, and a really, really good 70% distance striking defense. Jake is definitely lower volume than the average welterweight, but he slows fights down to his pace, and he thrives at that pace. Jake has landed 5 UFC knockdowns in 17 UFC fights, and he's finished 2 of his 11 UFC wins by way of knockout. And Jake can wrestle too. He has about 44% of his UFC cage time taking place in control time positions, and Jake is winning over 62% of these positions. His wrestling activity is above average for the division with 1.78 takedowns per 15 minutes on 4.26 attempts. 42% takedown accuracy and 61% takedown defense for Jake Matthews, and he's out-controlling his opponents 27.43% to 16.54%. So the efficiency is okay, but he's winning those control time positions more often than not, and he's a lot more active of a wrestler than his opponents are. So he absolutely can mix in wrestling in order to be able to win minutes. And then Jake has definitely fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of competition. Flowers has fought solid regional scene competition. However, Matthews has 17 UFC fights So he's obviously been tested at a far higher level than Darrius has. Now, Darrius is explosive, especially early in the fight. He blasts forward. He puts together really long combinations thrown with 100% power. He reminds me a little bit of Derrick Lewis. He explodes, tries to knock you out, then he rests. Then he blasts forward again after he rests. When he lands with power. And even in the fights he loses, he has moments early in the fights. And if you aren't durable, he can absolutely knock you out in the first round. And Darrius is a good wrestler. He's compact. He's got a low center of gravity. And he explodes into his double legs and trips. And he can definitely get his opponents to the ground when he goes for it. His top control and sub game aren't the best, but he definitely can wrestle. So Darrius Flowers is a dangerous man, you guys. A very, very dangerous man, win or lose. This dude is always live to land a bomb early in fights. Whether it's with his takedowns or with the strikes that he throws, everything is done with explosion and power behind it. Jake has a full camp behind him. He was slated to fight Miguel Baeza, and Darrius Flowers steps in on short notice at Elevation. Darrius is on a 4-fight win streak right now. He fought 3 times in 3 weeks, beating Tim Karen by decision, Daniel Gadley, and Tim Hiley by knockout. Then 3 months later, he got a slam knockout on Dana White's Contender Series to punch his ticket to the UFC. Now he's on a 1-year layoff, which is weird because he fought like 4 times in 2 months, and then now it's almost a year layoff here for Darrius. So I don't know if he's I think he had to pull out of a fight. Oh shit, I got this window up. Yeah, I think he had to pull out of a fight earlier this year, maybe in February. So maybe he did get injured, and that's why we haven't seen him for this long. So let's see. Matthews has got the size advantage here. He's got the experience advantage. He's got the strength of schedule advantage. But I feel as if they're both solid wrestlers and dangerous kickboxers. And that early in the fight, Darrius will be live for a knockout. I'm going to pick Jake Matthews to win this fight by 3rd round knockout. I think that the elevation, the short notice, the layoff are going to get to Darrius Flowers. We've seen in the past Darrius Flowers show not very good conditioning. But then also when we saw him make his Dana White Contender Series appearance, he was talking about how he had kind of changed his mentality and that he was working a lot harder and you know, kind of just doubled down and said that I'm going to make a career out of this. So, you know, it looks like maybe he might have fixed that conditioning problem because now he is fighting at 170. But in the past, when you watch his regional scene footage, a lot of fights at, you know, catch weights and middleweight where he just looks fat, but he just didn't want to cut weight. Now that he's cutting weight, now that he's getting down to 170, you know, I mean, I think if we see Darrius Flowers make weight and do it easily, he's going to be live to hurt this dude early. I promise you, he can hurt anybody early in fights when he blitzes forward. So I'm really going to look to try to find a Flowers bet to win 1st round knockout at plus 800 or better. If I can find a number like that, I'm probably going to sprinkle it for a quarter unit. But I think Jake Matthews' experience, the fact that he's fought the much better brand of competition, and that he's a pretty durable dude in his own right, like we saw in the Matt Semelsberger fight, that I think he's going to, you know, weather that early storm and then put a pace on Flowers, you know, who's taking this fight on short notice at Elevation on a year layoff. And I think he breaks him late by 3rd round knockout. So let's go to Jake Matthews winning this fight by 3rd round knockout. But like I said, I'm impressed with what I've seen from Beast Mode Flowers. And I think that if Flowers comes in, makes weight, looks good, sprinkle him to win by 1st round knockout. I mean, because I'm not laying that kind of juice on Jake Matthews. And from what I've seen from Flowers, I think a fight doesn't go to decision bet would also be a pretty good bet here. But it's juice to the tits right now. It was available at around minus 160-ish. I think when it opened it for the under 2.5, but now it's just been steamed, and I don't think there's a whole lot of value there. So yeah, we're gonna go with Jake Matthews though by 3rd round knockout there. All right. Let's see. Oh, PED suspension, says D. Laffy. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you for the heads up for Darrius, and it was reduced, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so maybe it was like a supplement thing. We'll find out though. We'll try to get a look into that a little bit more. Too many unknowns. I'm calling Flowers by variance. Dude, yeah, man. Flowers is good. Oh, hey, Weezy, I just watched Chiesa drunk and crying, telling Pena he loves her when Pena won that fight against Nunez. Hard to watch. Worse than Barbie. Oh, my God. Worse than Barbie? I am not going to be going to see Barbie. I'll tell you that. But my God. I'm going to have to check that out, my man. I'm going to have to check that out. That's what we're going to talk about, Michael Chiesa, later on in the show here. And he's on a 1 year and 8 month layoff. So it's fair to ask where he's at right now. Devin Clark has the most messed up teeth. They were all knocked out by Kudalaba. Yeah, that's for sure, man. And then Sneery is saying they resigned Diego Sanchez for one fight because dude's trainer was a whack job. That's Tony's next fight. Yeah, that could be, man. We got thank you for your consistent and hard work as always, Uncle Weezy. Appreciate you, LPX. Thank you, man. Barbie is okay. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. It's a movie in 2023. Why wouldn't it be? All right, you guys. And by the way, Hollywood is just trash. It's all trash. These guys make the same fucking movie over and over and over again. All the actors are trash. All the actresses are trash. All the producers are trash. All the funding is trash. All the people are trash. Fuck Hollywood. They're fucking useless. All right, you guys. Let's go on to the next fight, which is a banger, you guys. Roman Kopylov versus Claudio. Hey, Ribeiro. Can't wait for this one. This is going to be such a banger. We got Claudio is an underdog here. He is plus 191. We got Roman Kopylov, big favorite in this fight at minus 226, and the fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 275 for this fight. And by the way, 90 of you guys hanging out live here for this pay-per-view card. Really good one. Please hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on any of the great content that I have here on my channel. Please consider joining that Patreon so you can get access to these stats, to the prop template that helps you make over-under bets with fantastic analytics that you can't get anywhere else. It's the best way to support my work and make sure that I keep coming here to YouTube to produce this content for you guys. Appreciate all you guys. All right, so Kopylov versus Ribeiro. Now, let's first start talking about Roman Kopylov advantages here. He has the overall and the UFC experience advantages over Ribeiro. Roman has 80 more minutes in the pro cage in 1 more year and 2 more fights at the UFC level, and he's got 35 more minutes in the octagon as well. Roman is flat out nasty on the feet, you guys. He's fast for a middleweight. He's a southpaw that has a great 1-2 that he throws straight down the pipe, and he throws his left kicks to the body and to the head, both with power. I wish Roman was a little more active with his volume, but what he does throw is accurate and powerful. Roman's finished 9 of his 10 pro wins inside the distance. All those finishes come by way of knockout. He has 2 UFC knockdowns and 2 UFC knockouts. He also has shown the ability to be able to win minutes as well as moments at range. He has a positive 1.24 distance striking differential. He's got 49% distance striking accuracy, which is well above average. And he also has, I lost my place in my notes, a 64.25% distance striking defense, which in comparison to Claudio Ribeiro at 45% is definitely one of the most important stats to break down on this entire fight. When you see that kind of a gap in distance striking defense, it certainly means something. Who was it last week where there was that massive... it was Muradov and Barberena. Muradov had this phenomenal striking defense. Barberena had a piss poor striking defense, and you saw Muradov just picking him apart from range the whole time. So definitely like Kopylov being way more accurate. Well, not way more accurate, as Ribeiro is also very accurate, but a lot more defensively responsible than Claudio has been. Roman's 4 UFC fights have stayed at distance striking range 83% of the time. So Roman is good at using his wrestling in reverse to keep fights standing. Roman was Fight Night's global middleweight champion prior to his debut in the UFC, and he had 2 championship fights scheduled for 5 rounds. So it's safe to say that Roman has fought the superior strength of schedule, not only inside, but outside the UFC. That's not to say that Claudio Ribeiro wasn't a champion as well. He was a champion in 2 different organizations, Thunder Fight, and I don't know what the other one was. It's a very small Brazilian organization, but Thunder Fight's a good organization to get a championship in. So he's also fought solid regionally seen competition. But if you look at Kopylov's opponents, they are higher level, the ones that he won than the ones that Ribeiro won on the regional scene. Now for Ribeiro, he's got the measurables advantages in this fight. He's a little over a year younger than Roman Kopylov. He's got a 1-inch height and a 2-inch reach advantage. Claudio is going to have the way more vocal quarter men and women, and they're going to be yelling, "Hey!" all the time while he's walking out, and I'm going to fucking love that. I love those two. They get me fired up. Even when I'm watching just tape on this guy and I know that he's going to win the fight, they get me fired up by just yelling the entire time while he's walking out. I don't think there's anything cooler than that. And then Claudio does that dance where he's hopping on one leg twice and going back and forth, and they're just yelling, "Hey!" It's God, I can't get enough of it. Really looking forward to Claudio's walkout. And even past the walkout, you guys, this dude's got massive power in his hands. He's got massive power in his kicks. He's finished all 11 of his pro wins inside the distance, all by knockout. He throws everything from the hip with 100% power. He isn't very technical, but he's always looking to take your head off, and that makes him very dangerous to trade in the pocket with. Claudio also has heavy low leg kicks that he uses to maintain range and limit his opponent's mobility. And Claudio also showed off a little wrestling and top control, along with some nasty ground and pound in the Joe Holmes fight. So we might see him mixing in the wrestling from now on and not just relying on his power, but his power is good, you guys. This guy throws with bad intentions, and when it lands, you're going to be in pain. So really looking forward to this one. This fight comes down to, in my opinion, the technical minute-winning stand-up game of Kopylov versus like that one punch and kick power that Ribeiro has. Both of these guys are extremely dangerous on the feet, and both guys were well tested on the regional scene and scheduled for 5 rounds more than once. I do believe that Kopylov is much better on the feet because he has power like Ribeiro does, but he's way faster, way more technical, and he doesn't throw one at a time with massive wind-up like Ribeiro does. He will put together combinations, and his 1-2 is beautiful. I think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds. I like Kopylov to win this one by 3rd round knockout. And I just want to show you my prop template on this one. As we see Kopylov and Ribeiro, minus 160 here for the over 1.5. That's a 61.5% implied probability, but 62.69% of middleweight fights do go over 1.5 rounds. So that's a 1.15% break when we compare that number to this number. And then Roman Kopylov has been over 1.5 rounds in all 4 of his UFC fights and in 5 of 6 of his regional scene fights. So Kopylov is a striker who's fairly low volume at first. He kind of waits to get the reads. And once he does, and once his opponent starts to slow down a little bit, then he starts to put together his combinations and find some big shots. And when he does find those big shots, they hurt. And eventually the attrition kind of piles up. He gets faster, his opponent gets slower, and then he finds that knockout late in the fight. But at over 1.5 rounds, 5 of these guys' 6 UFC fights have went over 1.5. And So that's much better than the 61% price of the line. And these guys are going over 1.5 rounds at a much bigger rate than the division does. So minus 160, even though it's a bit terrifying because Ribeiro does have so much power, and so does Kopylov, that this fight probably does go over 1.5 rounds, but we could absolutely see either one of these guys spark the other because they both have nasty power. So that's just one of the spots that my prop template was kind of picking out. Not a huge sample size of 6 fights, but an underpriced line for sure. And yeah, we're picking Kopylov to win this one by 3rd round knockout. Big fan of both of these guys. Really looking forward to this fight. All right, there we go. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We've got imagine getting friend zoned by a single mom. Classic guys. Kiwi saying Esterine. What's up, Kiwi? We got Mr. D saying preach, Weezy. We got Zorio Slinga saying preach, Weezy. And MMA Go Rumor saying I'm all for nuking Pedo Wood. Yeah, man, they're the worst, man. Yeah, I agree with Zorio Slinga too there, man. Just screw them, dude. Cuban Assassin saying boob is correct. Friend zone for all eternity on YouTube. LOL. Come on. It's so bad. You mean you aren't looking forward to Transformers? What I'm really looking forward to is the 6th remake of the Incredible Hulk movie. We got Zodio Slinga saying, oh, well, we got Boob saying Ribeiro is the guy whose wife slaps him, right? That's not his wife. I think that's his coach's wife. I think his coaches over at his camp, which is BBT, Brazilian Black Tie, I think they're married, but I'm not positive about that. And then we've got Jono saying Gaethje underdog. I think there's some value there. I do too, Jono. I think it's a 50-50 fight, and the line has it 60% Poirier, 40%, well, maybe about 58% Poirier, 42% Gaethje right now. So I feel like there's a little bit of value in that line because I think those guys are extremely well matched. All right. Jacksonville Zoe's in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? Good to see you hanging out near Zoe. You guys smash that like button if you haven't already. And let's start talking about this next fight, which is going to be Derrick the Black Beast Lewis at plus 195 right now on Bet Online Sportsbook. Squaring off against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, minus 230. The fight doesn't go to decision right now, sitting at minus 450 for this fight. So let's get these stats up on the screen. And let's first start talking about everybody's favorite knockout king, the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, and his advantages. The Lewis is going to be the bigger dude here. He's 2 inches taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage over De Lima. De Lima is a blown-up light heavyweight. Fought most of his career in the UFC at light heavyweight. Now he's moved up to heavyweight. But Lewis has always been a heavyweight. And Lewis has the overall and the UFC experience advantages in comparison to De Lima. He's got 8 more professional fights, almost 140 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's been more active as his career has lasted 1 year less than De Lima's. Derrick also has 10 more UFC fights and 132 more minutes in the UFC octagon. Derrick Lewis can be summarized as a pro fighter, as a knockout artist. He holds the UFC record for most knockouts with 13. 76% of his 17 UFC wins come by way of KO, and 21 of his 26 pro wins, 81%, come by way of the knockout. On the feet, Derrick is patient. He doesn't waste energy, and when he sees an opening, he blasts forward combinations, and if he lands, you're fucked. Plain and simple. When you look at Lewis's striking stats, they're terrible. 1.81 distance strikes per minute landed, 36% accuracy, and 47.6% defense, which is really bad at heavyweight. He's got a negative 0.94 distance striking differential, and he attempts only 5.02 distance strikes per minute, which is 4.48 less than the divisional average. So he's super low volume. All that being said, Derrick slows his opponents down to his pace, Derrick's opponents only attempt 5.25 distance strikes per minute. So obviously they respect Derrick's power and proceed with caution when they were standing in front of this man. You don't win 13 UFC fights by knockout on accident. De Lima better mind his P's and Q's when he's standing with Lewis, or he is gonna run into a dick saw. I promise you that. Derrick has fought, beaten, and lost to the better brand of competition at the UFC level. This is a step up for Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Lewis's last 4 losses are against Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Pavlovich, and Sergey Spivak. So this is a step down in competition for him. Now with de Lima, he's got by far the superior UFC striking metrics. He's got a positive 1.28 distance striking differential. He's way more accurate than Derrick Lewis. He's a lot more defensively responsible than Derrick Lewis at distance. He's landing a knockdown on 2.63% of the distance strikes that he lands. Not quite as good as Derrick Lewis at 3.33, but it's important to note that even though Derrick Lewis is the knockout king, and we know that he's got savage power, that de Lima's got real power as a heavyweight as well. And let's see here. So there isn't that much of a difference in the power numbers between these guys. And de Lima's got a 50% knockout rate at the UFC level in his 10 UFC wins, and it's a 76% knockout rate for Derrick Lewis. And Marcos has been successful mixing in the wrestling to win minutes when he isn't comfortable striking. He's landed 10 takedowns on 21 attempts. That's 47.62%. And that comes out to 1.56 takedowns per 15 minutes while allowing only 0.94. So he's been very efficient as he's winning over 71% of the control time positions his fights have been in. And his fights are in those positions over 62% of the time. So he's done an excellent job of being efficient with his offensive and defensive grappling. So this line makes no sense to me. If you're one of these people that got in on Marcos Rogerio de Lima at minus 120, well then, yeah. I mean, you're getting the slightly younger guy. You're getting the guy who's won 4 out of his last 5 fights. You're getting a guy who throws nasty low leg kicks. You're getting a guy with a ton of power on the feet. He's going to be the faster guy in comparison to Derrick Lewis, and he's going to be the guy with more paths to victory, as we've seen Marcos Rogerio de Lima successfully mix in the wrestling to win minutes, while we really don't see that being in Derrick Lewis's arsenal. He's only got 9 takedowns, Derrick Lewis does, in 26 UFC fights. So, I mean, obviously, there are a lot of reasons here to like the Rogerio de Lima side, but this is Derrick Lewis. We all know what this guy is capable of. Sure, Marcos has won 4 of his last 5, but against who? Maurice Green, who smokes with cigarettes and does crochet. Waldo Cortez Acosta, a former baseball player. The geriatric Ben Rothwell, and the even more geriatric Andrei Arlovsky. What's even stranger is how Marcos has racked up 9 heavyweight fights so far in the UFC, and he's not once fought a heavyweight with any power whatsoever. Don't believe me? Let's have a look. Waldo Cortez Acosta, no power. Andrei Arlovsky, no power. Blagoy Ivanov, no power. Ben Rothwell, no power. Maurice Green, no power. Alexander Romanov, no power. Ben the Combat Wombat Sosoli, no power. Stefan Struve, 7-foot string bean. And Adam Wieczorek. He fought more powerful guys in Nikita Krylov and Clint Hester and Ovin St. Preux at light heavyweight than he did at heavyweight. So how does Marcos Rogerio de Lima respond to an opponent with power? We're yet to find out. And he's all of a sudden fighting guys that haven't knocked anybody out at this level. And now he's going to be fighting the knockout king. So this line is hilarious to me where it's at right now. And then you might even want to, if you did get out de Lima at minus 120, I mean, it's a good line. You beat the line movements. There's no reason to R about, but What if Lima throws a naked calf kick without setting it up properly? Which is how he throws 100% of his calf kicks. He never sets it up. It's never at the end of the combination. It's always the first strike that he throws. So, and he's never had to worry about power coming back his way when he does that. So he could wind up looking up at the lights. He throws one naked calf kick, and Derrick Lewis throws one straight right down the middle and puts it on his chin. This fight's over. Please don't be surprised if that happens. Like I say, we just don't know how he's going to respond to the power of Derrick Lewis. Derrick Lewis has fought everyone in the division, and he is the undisputed knockout king. I'm picking the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, to win this fight by first round knockout. Plus 195 on the money line. I bet that for 1 unit. And I'm hoping somebody hangs a plus 300 Derrick Lewis by knockout, because if they do, I will add on with a knockout bet. But I'm picking the knockout king. I think that this line is hilarious right now, and I think he's going to win this one by first round knockout over Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Let's see how it works out for me. Big plus money shot, and Derrick Lewis has a tendency of winning when you don't think he will. Let's see here. We got Jared saying Lewis is approaching where he was lined against Spivak, and he's already beyond his line against Pavlovich. He's probably cooked, but this line is wild. Yeah, I know. Good evening, Zoe, says Justin J. We've got hello, Justin, says Jacksonville Zoe. We got Daz Files saying Lewis a quitter at this stage, just here for the check. Yeah, he might be. Daz Files saying MRDL, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, minus 170. Hope that still looks at fight time. We'll see. Silly Goose, De Lima looks like a fat version of Dwayne Johnson who underwent a lobotomy. And my guy Brady is in the room. DFS by the number saying, great point. Lima has fought zero power at heavyweight. Yeah, I mean, it's just weird, that you can have that many heavyweight fights and literally you got nobody that gets knockdowns in that list. So, and David Nettle is saying, Uncle Weezy out here laying out the wisdom like always. I appreciate you, David. And I appreciate my guy, Presidente Pedro, with the $9.99 donation. Loving it. Saying, oi, I appreciate all the work you do, Unc. Good luck this weekend. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks. I appreciate you, Presidente Pedro. Thank you so much for the donation, man. It really helps me out. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already, you guys. Hit that subscribe, and please consider joining the Patreon. And Jared Curry saying Lewis wins this. We all think he's still got it. Then he goes on a 3-fight skid before we do this all again in 18 months. Mr. D, what's up, dude? All right, you guys, let's move on to this next fight. It's going to be Trevin Giles, Officer Trevin Giles at plus 262, a massive underdog to a phenomenal prospect in Gabriel Bonfim, the Mahetinha, at minus 312. And we got the fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 325 for this fight. Evidently, the bookies understand that Gabriel Bonfim has a 100% finish rate as a pro. So let's break down Gabriel Bonfim's advantages here. All right. Gabriel is 5 years younger than Officer Giles, and Gabriel is still only 25 years old. He's such a good prospect. He's a very opportunistic finisher. He's got a 100% finish rate in his 14 pro wins, 11 coming by way of submission, 3 coming by way of knockout. Gabriel has crisp, technical boxing. He has a pro boxing background. He stays behind a fast, crisp jab, and he stays defensively responsible, and he keeps his hands high. Gabriel will definitely win minutes with his stand-up at this level, and he should only get better at his current age. And Gabriel also has a very opportunistic submission game, so he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. 11 pro wins by submission, 4 rear naked chokes, 3 guillotines, 2 arm triangles, a triangle, and a Von Flue choke. This guy finds submissions all the time, so going to the ground against him is a bad idea. But just because something is a bad idea, it doesn't mean that Officer Giles isn't going to jump in with both feet here. Now, Officer Giles is going to have the 2-inch reach advantage here. And he has the pro and the UFC experience advantages over Bonfim. He's got 6 more professional fights, over 100 more minutes of cage time, and 1 more year as a pro fighter. Officer Giles also has 10 more UFC fights and 128 more minutes in the octagon. So more than 2 hours of octagon time than Gabriel Bonfim. So a big time experience advantage here for the officer. And Trevin's a talented striker. He's got a positive 0.7 distance striking differential. 48% accuracy is very good. 63% defense is above average. He's landed 3 knockdowns in 11 UFC fights, and he's finished 3 of his 7 UFC wins by knockout. Trevin has a fast, accurate jab that he doesn't throw nearly enough, in my opinion, but when he does throw it, it's good. Trevin is low volume, but he's very efficient, and if you get tricked into fighting at his pace, he does an excellent job of winning minutes and staying safe behind his jab. Looking to snipe you with a perfectly placed straight right is usually what he's trying to do at distance. I prefer Bonfim's stand-up, but Trevin won't be out of his depth on the feet here by any stretch of the imagination. Trevin is a pretty efficient grappler, too. He's landed 11 takedowns and has allowed 11, but his opponents have attempted 21 more takedowns than Trevin has. Yet he's still winning 46% of the control time positions he has been in. So his above average 55% takedown accuracy and 73% takedown defense serve him well, both offensively and defensively. He's not afraid to go to the ground with excellent grapplers, which has bitten him on the ass before against guys like Gerald Mearshart and Zach Cummings. But Trevin, like Gabriel, is dangerous and competent wherever the fight goes. And Trevin has obviously fought the much better brand of competition over his pro career. Trevin fought killers on the regional scene in LFA and then went to fight some of the middleweight division's best fighters. And this will be Officer Giles' 4th fight at welterweight, which his frame is much more suited for. Trevin's overall strength of schedule and his wins are both impressive. This is going to be a step up in competition for Gabriel Bonfim. But in summary, Bonfim is a very impressive prospect. He's 14-0. He has dangerous striking and an opportunistic submission game. He fought solid competition on the regional scene, walked through UFC fighter Trey Waters in less than a round in his Dana White Contender Series fight, and he finished a veteran stud in Munir Lazzez in less than a minute in his UFC debut. Gabriel is dangerous wherever the fight goes, and he's yet to taste defeat in 14 pro fights. This is going to be a stiff test in the form of Officer Giles here. Trevin is more experienced. He's fought the much better brand of competition, a lot of those fights being at 205 and 185. And he is also a slick striker and a solid submission grappler in his own right. Trevin also has nasty ground and pound. So you do not want this dude on top of you, no matter how good your submission game is. I think this line is a little too wide, but I have to side with the youth and the undefeated record of Gabriel Bonfim here. I think Gabriel's boxing makes the difference, and he capitalizes on a Giles mistake to get the win. I'm going to pick Gabriel to win by 3rd round submission, which is how we've seen Trevin Giles lose so many times. So Gabriel Bonfim, the uber prospect, and I am picking him to win the Mahitinya by submission in round 3 against Trevin Giles. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. We got Gene Ellis in the room saying, "Oi, Weezy, I'm glad I caught you live for this one. I always watch it after. Thanks for the precise breakdowns every week. I appreciate the kind words, Gene. Thank you for joining us, man." And Jack77 saying, "Damn, Weezy, you still live? Glad I made it." Yeah, dude, we're already 1 hour and 24 minutes in. We've got a ton of work to do this week. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more fights to go. So I'm going to get right into it, you guys. Appreciate you all for hanging out with me. 86 of you still hanging out live here, and it's almost midnight in the Midwest here. But let's talk about this next fight, which is another good one. Michael Chiesa, the Maverick, plus 125, friend zoned by Juliana Pena. is going to be going up against Kevin Holland at minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juice to the tits right now at minus 210 for this fight. So let's talk first, after we get these stats up, about Michael the Maverick Chiesa's advantages. He's going to be the better grappler here. He is a specialist. Michael doesn't have very good striking, but he's well aware of that, and he forces the grappling as a result. Now, Chiesa's got 16 UFC fights, but only 35% of Michael's 165 minutes in the UFC octagon have been spent at distance striking range. The other 65% is spent in control time positions, where Michael is getting 3.35 takedowns per 15 minutes on 6.07 attempts. He's attempting 0.91 submissions per 15 minutes, and he's winning 68% of the control time positions he's been in. Holland loses 73% of the control time positions he's been in, so the path is definitely open for Chiesa to refuse to strike with Kevin, stick to him like glue for the duration, frustrating him, rendering his height and reach advantages useless. And Michael has the superior strength of schedule stats according to my metric. He has the 1.6 ratio overall in his competition compared to 1.38 for Kevin Holland. And the ratio on his wins are much better at 1.61 compared to 1.09 for Holland. So when we add up the UFC records of all of Michael Chiesa's wins, we get 132 wins and 82 losses were what his opponent's records are in the UFC. So he's beating really good competition. You know, the average record of the guy that he beats in the UFC has 13.2 wins and 8.2 losses, while for Holland, it's less experienced guys with much closer to 500 records. And then Kevin Holland, his advantages here is that he's 5 years younger. He's got a 2-inch height and a 6-inch reach advantage. Kevin was a big middleweight. Now he's a huge welterweight, while Chiesa fought most of his career at 155 and then moved up to 170. Now, Kevin Holland, despite being 5 years younger than Chiesa, he has the overall and the UFC experience advantages over him. Excuse me. He's got 12 more pro fights, 120 more minutes in the pro cage, and 4 years less as a pro in comparison to Chiesa. So this means Kevin's been far more active as a pro. Chiesa's on a 1 year and 8 month layoff, as we can see right over here. And Kevin has fought 6 times since Chiesa's last fight. Kevin also has 2 more UFC fights and 25 more minutes in the UFC octagon compared to Michael Chiesa. And Kevin has been the more dangerous and diverse finisher as a pro. Chiesa has a 63% finish rate, and it's all by submission. While for Holland, it's an 83% career finish rate, but 8 of those wins are by submission, 12 of them are by knockout. So Holland is dangerous wherever the fight goes. Kevin is going to be the far better striker here. Not only is he at a 2-inch height and a 6-inch reach advantage over Chiesa, but his UFC striking metrics over a large sample size are miles ahead of Chiesa's. He has a positive 1.68 distance striking differential that you can see there, 48% accuracy, and 54% defense isn't great. But his volume is above average at 12.74 distance strike attempts per minute. Holland has had bad striking defense at 54%, but that shouldn't come into play against Michael Chiesa, who has no power, and he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat with 31% distance striking accuracy. So Kevin has 5 UFC knockdowns, and he's finished 5 of his 11 UFC wins inside the distance by knockout. So as long as this fight is at distance striking range, Holland should be cruising. Now, this shapes up to be a striker versus grappler matchup, but there are a lot of reasons to like Kevin Holland here. He's younger. He's taller. He's longer. He's more experienced. He's way more active as a professional. The more powerful and technical striker he is, and his durability is next level. Kevin has fought 6 times since October of 21, and Michael has fought once. So the almost 2-year layoff for Chiesa has to be taken into account now that he's 35 years old. We have to wonder if he's 100% committed to MMA right now. Kevin shouldn't be too out of his depth on the mat here. However, you always have to worry about Chiesa getting to your back. That's what he does best. And once he gets there, he either submits you or he rides out the round. So even on the long layoff and not knowing where Chiesa's head is at, there is a path for him to win this fight. Grapple early and often. Don't stay at distance striking range and make Kevin wrestle and grapple for the duration of the fight. If Chiesa can get to Kevin's back in 2 of 3 rounds and hunt for submissions, he could get the dub here, and it wouldn't be all that surprising knowing what we already know about Kevin Holland's takedown defense, which is currently sitting at 50.6% on 85 attempts against, allowing a whopping 37% control time against. The piece of information that I'm missing is what Chiesa's motivation is here. Is he 100% invested in being a fighter, or will he quit at the first sign of adversity? Instead of choosing a side here, I chose violence. I bet the under 2.5 rounds at plus 125 on BetOnline Sportsbook early in the week, and I beat a ton of line movement thanks to my prop template available on my Patreon. I gave out that pick to all my Patreon people. Some of them were able to get on it, but my pick for this fight is going to be Holland by second round KO, and I have 2 units on the under 2.5 at plus 125 for this fight. So Kevin, the Trailblazer Holland by knockout in round number 2 is the pick. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got D. Laffy in the room. Holland by sub is extremely live here. Chiesa can't defend a sub to save his life. I am with you, D. Laffy. I think that's an excellent play. We got Alex Ramirez with the Flames. What's up, man? We got J-Jack saying, I really like Holland. I think he wins this fight too, brother, but I think it's going to be under 2.5 rounds. Gene Ellis, I actually think Chiesa will find the sub here. As long as he does it in less than 2.5 rounds, I'll be happy, Gene. But, yeah, I think somebody fight to end by submission was a bet that my guy DFS by the numbers told me about earlier today at plus 200. And I was like, man, if I wasn't already 2 units deep on the under 2.5, I'd probably be making that bet because Chiesa has lost to the sub a ton of times in his career, and so has Holland. Holland's been subbed twice in his career too. So both of these guys are vulnerable to the sub, and they're both black belts. Holland ragdolls Chiesa. I don't think Holland's going to ragdoll Chiesa. I think Chiesa is the better wrestler, but I think Holland definitely can knock him out. What's up, Nos Dog? We got Cuban Assassin saying, I guarantee you, Chiesa has been on the whiskey and sent Pena some dick pics. That might be true, man. We got D. Laffy. Holland too fast for Chiesa. He's very fast. Under also a good pick, but Chiesa by sub is plus 350. I saw Chiesa by sub earlier at plus 400. I couldn't believe that number. D. Laffy, Chiesa is going to force a takedown, and Holland's going to sub him from his back. I'm so confident in it. And then we got TM saying Wonderboy and Poirier, guaranteed parlay. All right, let's go to this next fight. It is going to be El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson at plus 320, going up against King Bobby Green, going at minus 420. And the fight doesn't go to decision here, sitting at plus 100. So this is the only fight that I did not write up this week. And the reason I didn't write it up is because I feel that, in my opinion, this is the 1-800 gambler fight of the week, right? We got Tony Ferguson, who's on a 5-fight losing streak. He got his soul stolen by Justin Gaethje. Lost via unanimous decision to Charles Oliveira. Lost via unanimous decision to Beneil Dariush. Got kicked in the face by Michael Chandler, and then he got submitted by Nate Diaz. And Bobby Green, he beat Long Island's #1 realtor in Al Iaquinta by knockout, and then he got a win over Nasrat Haqparast. Very convincing one-sided victory over a great striker in Haqparast. Then he loses to Islam Makhachev. He has a great fight with Drew Dober, is winning that fight cleanly, and then gets caught in the second round and knocked out. And then Jared Gordon is a no contest due to a headbutt. So Bobby Green at minus 420 is a bet that you just can't be making. You can't. Bobby Green is in way, way, way too many close fights. He's not a finisher. He's only finished 3 of his 10 UFC wins. So, and he kind of fights to his opponent's pace, and he'll fuck around, and he's not always the most committed, to winning minutes. He loves to fight. He loves to be in there. He loves to talk shit. Kind of like puts the hands out every time he gets caught and says that it didn't hit him. And he could do some things that kind of like push the judges the other way in close fights. And here we got Tony Ferguson, who's a good boxer, definitely got to much higher levels in his fighting career than Bobby Green ever did. But El Cucuy is 39 years old right now. He's flipping his, pickup truck and getting DUIs. Nothing that comes out of his mouth makes any sense anymore. He's just got a lot of miles on the tires, and he's taken a lot of damage, and it's really showing. And that Justin Gaethje fight was so scary. That was really scary. He took a life-changing beating in that fight. And, it came near the end of his career. And this is not a sport that has a lot of happy endings, you guys. And I have a feeling that Bobby Green's going to go out there and style on Tony Ferguson and win this fight. But I can't lay minus 420 on King Green. And I'm not taking the dog shot on Tony Ferguson here at plus 320 because I think that he might be completely done, completely checked out, showing up for a check. It's a tough sport. It's a tough way to make a living. And oftentimes these guys get to the end of their careers and they're between a rock and a hard place because they know in their heart of hearts they're done fighting, but they also know that they need the money. And it looks like Tony Ferguson, unfortunately, is in that place. I wish he didn't need the money. I wish he was retired. I wish he was cage side calling fights. I wish he was intelligible when he spoke. But, like some people that I used to listen to back in the day, they would tell me, Weezy, shit in one hand and hope in the other and see which hand fills up first, right? Hope isn't always a great thing. And I hope the best for Tony Ferguson, but I fear the worst. I think Bobby Green's going to win. I think he's going to win by third round knockout or by decision, but this is the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week. I think Ferguson is completely done for, but I don't see the point in laying minus 420 on Bobby Green, who's in tons of close fights and doesn't really have the power to finish his opponents. I'll say Green by decision, but I won't be betting it. So Bobby Green, King Green, to beat El Cucuy by decision. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Nas Dog saying rest in peace, Tony. Ah, man, it's rough. Would not put Poirier in a parlay, says Usman. David Barista saying, does Tony retire after the match? I hope so. I hope he does. Course Tony. He's getting pieced up. Yeah. Iaquinta is no better than the number 4 realtor on Long Island. That is not what I've heard, Michael Oskland. But maybe if you're from Long Island, you have access to more recent and accurate information than I do. But as far as I'm concerned, in my heart, in your Uncle Weezy's heart, Al Iaquinta always was and always will be Long Island's number 1 realtor. TM in the room saying Gaethje got dropped by Oliveira and Chandler. This overrated, improved defense got people overhyping Gaethje. Poirier hasn't been dropped in 145 days. We got D. Laffey saying I'm taking Green to win, but Ferguson by sub could be interesting if it's plus 700. I'm just staying away from this fight. Meatball saying, hey, Unc, got here late, but hope you're having a good one. I'm having a great one. Meatball, thanks for joining us. Gene saying this is a stay away fight for me. I'm right there with you, Gene. Can't really pick a side or over under. Boob saying UFC fighters are undefeated after coming back from a DUI. Is that true? That'd be awesome if it was. Gene Ellis saying, I almost want to bet Tony, but probably a waste of money. Fine, I'll give you that. Still not as good of a realtor as Chael, though. What? Really? You think Chael's solid? You think Chael's a better realtor? I don't know, man. I don't know. But still, like I say, number 1 in my heart. Go saying, I got a bad feeling Ferguson is going to squeak out a decision, and we're going to have to watch another 2 to 3 beatdown of El Cucuy before they force him to retire. I hope that's wrong. 145. Oh, then his 145 pound days. Yeah, he's very durable. Is Poirier. And Silly Goose saying Ferguson Green is the scripted fight of the week. Dana hoping that Pillow Fist Bobby Green won't finish Tony and will lose a controversial decision, and then Tony will throw the gloves down with a win. It's an interesting way to look at it, Silly Goose, and I wouldn't put it past. The only one you know of is after winning after a DUI is Jeff Neal. Okay. All right, you guys, let's move on to the next fight, which is going to be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, the favorite at -155, squaring off against Michel Pereira, +135. The fight doesn't go to decision, plus money right now at +135. So let's first start talking about Stephen Thompson's advantages after I get the stats up on the screen here and after I get a sip of water. So Stephen's got a 2-inch reach advantage here, and he's got the high-level experience advantage. He has 9 more UFC fights and 160 more minutes in the UFC octagon. Thompson has been the way better finisher at the UFC level. He's finished 5 of his 11 UFC wins by knockout. Well, I wouldn't say way better finisher. He's been the better finisher. And Pereira has finished 2 out of his 6 wins, and Thompson is finishing the better brand of competition as well. Obviously, Thompson is a phenomenal karate-style striker. He bounces up and down on his toes. He stands sideways. He blasts in and out of range. He's got great kicks and punches from both stances, and he's just as good at winning minutes with his striking as he is at winning moments. Stephen has 9 knockdowns in 17 UFC fights, and he's just as capable of dropping you with his punches as he is with his kicks. And Stephen has fought, beaten, and lost to the superior brand of UFC competition in comparison to Pereira. Now, Pereira is over 10 years younger and 1 inch taller than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Pereira actually has 17 more pro fights than Thompson in 2 less years as a pro. Pereira's a wild man who's been incredibly active as a pro, fighting almost 4 times a year for over 11 years. And he's a dangerous and flashy striker as Pereira. Thompson has a karate base, and for Pereira, it's something that looks more like capoeira. Pereira's got a positive 1.49 distance striking differential, landing a way above average 5.25 distance strikes per minute with 51% accuracy and 61.5% defense. He skirts around the outside of the cage. He throws big actions when his opponents try to engage, and he has a wide variety of unorthodox weapons he goes to regularly that you don't usually see used in the UFC octagon. Pereira always brings it, and his striking style is unorthodox and dangerous while also being defensively sound and efficient. And he does a decent job of mixing in the wrestling to win minutes in close rounds. He's 11 of 20 on his takedown attempts, as you can see right here. And he's got 94% takedown defense on 18 attempts against. So he's been pretty good at not only mixing in the wrestling to win a minute here or there, but not letting his opponents win minutes against him in the grappling. So while Pereira is good at getting his takedowns, he never really does a good job of keeping his opponents there, as he actually gets out-controlled by his opponents 9.43% to 8.57%, despite getting 11 takedowns and only yielding 1. Pereira won't have to worry about Thompson taking him down, so Pereira would be smart to mix in the wrestling to give Wonderboy to something to think about and potentially win a close round or 2. So this is going to be a fun fight to watch between 2 flashy strikers. I do like Wonderboy Thompson here, though. I can see Pereira being patient, skirting around the outside of the octagon and having some success at range, even mixing in some takedowns and winning a minute or 2 that way. But I have much more faith in the striking of Thompson. His techniques are much more functional and useful for MMA. He's fought the much better brand of competition. And even though he's the much older guy, the speed really appears to still be there, and the precision on his strikes is still top-notch. I think Stephen will win the minutes on the feet, and if Michel gets sloppy trying to close the gap, I think Thompson lands a big shot late and finishes him. I'm going to go with Wonderboy to win this one inside the distance by 3rd round knockout here. And what a fun fight this is going to be. And let's hope that we get to see a fantastic dance routine from Michel Pereira, because, this really could be something that's an angle of the card that most people aren't talking about. We don't have just one good dancer on this card in Michel Pereira, you guys. We've got two. And with Claudio Ribeiro, you got to go back and forth from one foot to the other while everyone's going, hey, we got Ribeiro. He can dance. We got our guy that we just talked about here in Pereira that can dance. Maybe they have a dance off. Maybe both of these guys put on one of the best dance routines that we've seen since the Pereira versus Tristan Connolly fight, which was maybe one of the best walkouts ever. Now, some pricks will say, well, Weezy, Pereira lost the fight. Well, did he? Can you really lose a fight when you win the walkout? So think about that for a minute, you guys. But yeah, we are going to go with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I'm going with the old man to keep it going here, and I think he's going to knock out Pereira in the third round. Got a lot of faith in Stephen Wonderboy Thompson here, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got Justin Villegas likes Michel Pereira in this spot. Wonderboy's a gatekeeper now. I can't bet him, says Nas Dog. We got Justin saying Michel going to give a nice sock in the face like hot chocolate and drop him on his ass. Meatball saying if it wasn't at altitude, I'd be all over Pereira. But I trust Wonderboy to outvolume him and break him down over time. I'm right there with you. If Johnny Walker was on the card, we'd have a trifecta of dancers. Yes, we would. And Johnny Walker, unfortunately, has hurt himself dancing before. I like Wonderboy here, a leaning decision, but maybe KO. Justin saying it's because Ribeiro mimics Pereira. Watch him fight. It's the same style. Not quite the same style. Pereira is a lot more acrobatic than Ribeiro is. Professor Chaos saying I'm muting the Kopylov Ribeiro fight. Don't do that. T.O. Phillips saying Pereira by third round black backflip. That would be really cool. If the first ever backflip finish in the UFC would be something that would be pay-per-view worthy. Jones won after his DUI too, so Boob is onto something. That's true, man. But, Jones always wins. So it's just Ribeiro tries to do everything Pereira does, but a fatty. Okay. And we got Boo saying, Wonderboy, what's the secret to your powers? All right, guys. Co-main event time here. Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. This is going to be a hell of a fight. And we've got Jan Blachowicz, a small favorite right now at minus 120. Alex Pereira plus 100 on the comeback. The fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 215 for this fight on Bet Online. So let's first start talking about Jan Blachowicz and the advantages that he has in this spot. He's got a massive MMA experience advantage. He's got 30 more professional fights, over 320 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 9 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. Jan also has 14 more UFC fights and 190 more minutes of octagon time. Jan is a very well-rounded fighter. He has 11 pro wins by decision, 9 pro wins by knockout, and 9 pro wins by submission. He has multiple paths to victory, and if he's willing to wrestle on Saturday, he can find another weak area in his opponent's game that's ripe for exploitation and find a much easier path to victory than he would have on the feet here. And Jan's an excellent striker in his own right. He's got a positive 1.5 distance striking differential with 45% accuracy and really solid 63.5% distance striking defense. Jan has 6 UFC knockdowns and is only allowed 1. And 5 of his 12 UFC wins are by knockout. So Polish power is now out of his depth on the feet here. And Jan will be the better wrestler and submission grappler here. He's not nearly as active with the wrestling as I'd like to see, as he attempts 1.95 less takedowns than the division does as a whole. So we see Jan is attempting 1.82 per 15 minutes, but that's 1.95 less than the divisional average here. And he gets out-controlled by his opponents. Jan only gets 12% control time, and he yields almost 30% control time, losing 70% of the control time positions he's been in. That being said, Jan can wrestle, and Alex is a kickboxer. So if Jan wants to take the path of least resistance here, he can wrestle, make Alex fight a fight in style and pace that he isn't equipped to fight at this level. We could see him make this look easy, but the problem is, you guys, is that Jan very rarely takes that path. Jan is the more well-tested fighter. He's got 14 more fights at the UFC level. My metric shows that they have similar strength to schedule. However, Alex has never fought at 205 and was never put in there versus a grappler. And that was very much on purpose that he wasn't put in there against a grappler. So we don't know how Alex is going to respond at light heavyweight against someone who actually has the capability to wrestle. Now, Alex Pereira, he's got the measurables advantages, even though he's making his light heavyweight debut versus the former champ. Alex, the former middleweight champ, will actually be 2 inches taller and have a 1-inch reach advantage over Jan Blachowicz. And Alex is also 4.5 years younger than Jan, as we see Jan is already 40 years old, and Alex Pereira turned 36 here a couple of weeks ago. Now, we've got Alex is a world-class kickboxer with crazy power in his left hook. Alex's left hook is one of the most dangerous of weapons across all weight classes in the entire sport of MMA. Alex's striking metrics against top-notch strikers at the UFC level are excellent. He's got a positive 1.43 distance striking differential. Unbelievable 56.6% distance striking accuracy. 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, and 3 of his 4 UFC wins come by way of knockout. As long as the fight is on the feet, Alex is just one properly placed left hook away from winning, and he doesn't just rely on winning moments there. He is also perfectly capable of winning minutes at range with his kickboxing, range management, pressure, and footwork. Man, when Alex is pressuring his opponents, he is an absolute menace to deal with. Now, this is a very interesting co-main event between 2 of the highest level fighters in the UFC. Both guys former champs. Both guys have power. Both are very capable kickboxers. Jan is definitely the more well-rounded, more experienced, and more well-tested martial artist here. He's the natural light heavyweight, even though Alex is actually the bigger guy. And Alex is coming back quickly after a brutal knockout at the hands of Israel Adesanya, as he will be just a little more than 3 months removed from that knockout on fight night. Will Jan wrestle? How will Alex look up a weight class against someone who can wrestle 3 months removed from a brutal knockout? Will Jan want to test his striking and not even go for takedowns? Lots of unanswered questions here, but I do have to lean with Jan Blachowicz. I doubt he's out of his depth on the feet here, and if he chooses to mix in the wrestling and does so successfully, I think he looks minus 200 in this spot. I will pick Jan to win this fight by decision. So Jan Blachowicz with more paths to victory. I think he can stay safe on the feet. But what I worry about is me laying 1.2 units on Blachowicz's money line to win one. And then 3 minutes into the second round, I'm chucking my remote at the television screaming, "Shoot a takedown, you dumbass." And that's what I'm really worried about here. I've heard people say that he wants to test his striking against Alex Pereira, which would be just plain stupid. But if you look at the numbers, you guys, the numbers don't lie. 30 takedown attempts in 19 fights. And when he had a massive striking or a massive grappling advantage over Israel Adesanya, he didn't shoot a takedown until the middle of the 4th round. So that's what's keeping me from actually betting Blachowicz here, and maybe even just saying maybe I'll just bet Pereira, because if Blachowicz attempts 0 takedowns in this fight, I think Pereira probably looks minus 150, minus 175. So it's a hard one to prognosticate. I don't know what Jan's going to do. I don't know how Pereira is going to look at 205. I don't know how the recent knockout just 3 months ago is going to affect him. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. And as a result of that, like I say, Jan Blachowicz by decision. And that brings us to the main event of the evening, you guys. Dustin, the Diamond, Poirier, -150 going up against Justin, the Highlight, Gaethje at +130. Fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced at -260 for this fight. Let's get the stats up here. Let's get the line, which we already have. Let's see if there's anything I need to read here. The DUI stay is interesting. Yeah, stat. Fight of the night says Nas Dog. Poatan says Meatball. Pereira backflip on Wonderboy, head exploding on impact, fatality. Pereira going to gas out. Wonderboy cardio wins this for him. That's my call. What's the odds on the backflip? I don't know. We don't have that one. Everything I see tells me Pereira should win on the feet, but Jan seems to be made out of steel. If Wonderboy had Pereira attitude and cocky moves, he'd be Johnny Cage. Yeah. Speed kills, says Meatball. This will be the fourth middleweight champion Jan is going to beat up. I love this guy. He's won me duffel bags full of money, says Go. Nice work, dude. What do I think of fight doesn't go to decision? I think it's too juiced, man. I think it's too juiced. But I'm not betting the fight goes either because it would be just way too much of a sweat. Meatball saying, I think I took Pereira decision, no action, -120. Feel like it's a good spot if you like Pereira to win. Yeah, I think that's a good look, actually. Yeah. 107 versus 78 strikes in favor of Jan versus Eddie. Yeah, I know. Pretty impressive for sure. No doubt about it. And he was doing fine boxing. Yeah, he was. Team Gaethje says, Meatball, how do we know if Pereira takedown defense hasn't improved? His training partner is probably one of the greatest grapplers in UFC history. Well, Pereira's takedown defense, it's already excellent. It's 94%, so I don't think you have to worry about it improving. Oh, wait, you're talking about Alex Pereira. It's not. Okay. There was just two Pereiras in a row. We had Michel Pereira and Alex Pereira. Yeah, I mean, still, the thing is, Boob, guys like Jan Blachowicz, you know, they've been doing this with takedowns for years. So, yeah, of course his takedown defense can get better, but these guys have been in wrestling rooms their whole lives while Pereira's hitting pads. You know, there's levels to this shit. If Poatan goes in his entire UFC career without getting grapple fucked, then I'm going to be mind blown. Yeah, I know, man, but they're definitely picking the right opponents so that that never happens to him. What do you make of the elevation advantage for Gaethje? I know when Leon was fighting in Utah, he utilized altitude tents and went to Utah 2 weeks early, but still wound up getting gassed. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like, I think that it's going to be big for Gaethje, the fact that he always trains at elevation and will be ready for that. Justin, round 4 leg kick. Yup. Jan via sub, says MMA Jesus. Both of these guys are tough as nails. Dustin seems like he has more versatility. Real Champions TV with the fire. No fakes. Let's go, man. All right. So let's talk about first Dustin Poirier's advantages. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's the southpaw in the southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Dustin has the overall and the UFC experience advantages. He's got 9 more pro fights, 90 more minutes of pro cage time, and over 2 more years as a pro fighter. Dustin also has 11 more UFC fights and 115 more minutes of octagon time in comparison to Justin. Dustin's striking has always been high level. He has an excellent positive 1.52 distance striking differential over 135-minute sample size of distance striking statistics. 47.4% accuracy, 58% defense. Those are both solid numbers. Dustin has the rare combination of being high volume, as he's landing 7.63 distance strikes per minute, which is 3.11 more than the divisional average, and 16.1 distance strike attempts per minute, which is 4.68 more than the divisional average. Above average accuracy, 47.4% better than the divisional average, and powerful. He's got 13 UFC knockdowns, and 10 of his 16 UFC wins come by way of knockout. Dustin is the more active wrestler and grappler. He attempts 3.77 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he gets 1.39 takedowns per 15 minutes. His efficiency is just about average. Justin Gaethje is a former D1 wrestler, but he never uses it, only attempting 4 takedowns in 11 fights, getting only 1 takedown in the UFC, and that takedown he got in the last 5 seconds of the third round of the Fiziev fight. So if anyone wins minutes in the wrestling and grappling here, it's probably Poirier. But I do think that this is going to be a stand-up affair. Their first fight lasted 15 minutes and 33 seconds, and there was only 1 minute and 10 seconds of control time, and there were no takedowns in that fight. Poirier went 0 for 5. Now, Justin Gaethje is an excellent striker. He lands 6.79 distance strikes per minute with mind-blowing 58% accuracy. He blasts low leg kicks from the word go and steadily starts to work his way upstairs for big shots after his opponent's mobility is compromised and they're more worried about protecting their legs than they are their head. Justin has landed 5 knockdowns in 11 UFC fights, and 5 of his 7 UFC wins come by way of knockout. He just outstruck Rafael Fiziev over 3 rounds. Justin is a one-dimensional striker. He doesn't wrestle. He has only 1 submission win in 28 fights, and even though he was a D1 wrestler, he doesn't wrestle. He keeps fights standing, moves forward. He trusts his durability and striking acumen to come out on top of the wars he drags his opponents into. When you sign up to fight Justin, you know, win or lose, you're going to the fucking hospital afterwards, and you need to be mentally prepared to push yourself to your mental and physical limits to come out with a win. Justin broke Tony Ferguson's 12-fight UFC winning streak, and Tony has been 0-4 since that life and career-changing beating. Justin has the slightly better finish numbers, both as a pro and in the UFC. He is a knockout artist, and he does not stray from that path. And even though it's in a smaller sample size, it's Justin who has the superior strength of schedule stats at the UFC level in comparison to Poirier. So, in summary, I see this fight being 50-50. The first time they fought, Dustin won the first, and the second and the third were close. Justin had a point deducted in the third for the second eye poke that he had done to Poirier. Then he got poked at the end of the third. He came out in the fourth round blinking and clearly unable to see out of the eye he got poked in, and he promptly got knocked out. I think that this fight plays out in a similar fashion. I see a third or a fourth round finish here, and I'm going to favor Justin Gaethje. I love the toughness. I love the low leg kicks and the ability to be able to keep the fight standing. This is such an awesome main event, and I'm a lot more confident in violence in general than I am in Gaethje winning. I think the under 4.5 rounds could potentially be a parlay piece or just a straight bet for me this week. And if you look at my 5-round prop template here for Poirier Gaethje, if you look at this under 2.5 rounds, which is currently plus 110 on BetOnline Sportsbook, that's a 47.6% implied probability. 53.19% of lightweight fights that are scheduled for 5 rounds in the UFC finish under 2.5 rounds. So we're getting 5.57% discount there. Poirier's got 10 UFC fights that have been scheduled for 5 rounds, and Gaethje has 8. In those 18 combined fights, 13 of them have finished under 2.5 rounds. That's 24% better than the price of the line, and these guys are finishing fights under 2.5 rounds at a 19% clip than what the division does as a whole. So this is one that the analytics like, and both of these guys have got a ton of power. So I could see either one of them getting a knockout halfway through the third round here and cashing that plus 110 under 2.5. But I'd like to find a fight doesn't go to decision around minus 190, minus 200. That would be something I would definitely be willing to bet here. But the pick is going to be Justin Gaethje. I think he's going to win this fight by 4th round knockout. Like I said, I think it comes in the 3rd or the 4th round here. I think the leg kicks, the elevation, I think it's going to be a little bit too much for Dustin Poirier here, and I'm looking for Gaethje to get the job done. We did it, everybody. 85 of you still hanging out here, 2 hours and 4 minutes in, and we broke down all 12 of these fights. Looking forward to these fights, looking forward to stacking cash tickets like flapjacks. So let's, in the spirit of that, show you what I have on my bets for this week. One money line bet, and it is the Derrick Lewis, the Black Beast, at plus 195 for 1 unit over Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I've got a 2-unit bet under 2.5 rounds for Chiesa versus Holland. I got that at plus 125. 2 units to try to win 2.5 on that one. I've got the CJ Vergara and the Matt Semelsberger money lines parlayed together to plus 156 for 1 unit. And then my max bet of the week, minus 165 fight, or minus 160, I think. Fight doesn't go to decision for Semelsberger versus Medic. That is a 5-unit bet, a max bet for me, looking to win 3. Love the fact that it's at elevation. Love the fact that both Semelsberger and Medic have crazy power. I love that Medic has never been out of the second round in his career and that he's taken this fight on short notice up a weight class. So that's the big bet. That's the one I really need. And, I'll be looking to make a couple other bets throughout the week here. If you're on my Patreon, look in the Weezy's track bet section of the Discord to let you know what I'm betting this week beyond this. You guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. We've got one order of business left in today's show, and that is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's going to get their ass shaved this week? Who's going to go out there and lose in violent fashion? Who's going to be the one shaving the ass of their hapless opponent? And there are a lot of good options this week. There are some guys that are going to win violently. I mean, the Blachowicz Pereira fight is probably going to end violently. The Poirier Gaethje fight is going to probably end violently. Chiesa Holland probably ends violently. Giles Bonfim probably ends violently. And I would give you Gabriel Bonfim, but he's minus 300. I mean, Matt Semelsberger kind of got juiced to the tits this week. Everybody's on him, so I don't want to give him as the ass shaving of the week. But I will do something. This is going to be a close to even money ass shaving. The guy's not a huge favorite here. But this week's ass shaving of the week, we got is Victor De Jesus saying the ass shaving is going to be Vergara to shave the ass of Salvador. And you guys know that Victor De Jesus is nearly undefeated in correctly picking the ass shaving of the week. Let's see if he keeps up that pace, because we've got CJ or Semi says Kiwi. We got Gogo Flamingo saying Semelsberger. We got my guy Chris Colanzis is in the room saying, let's stack them like flapjacks. Let's go. What's up, Chris? This week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is going to be CJ Vergara to march down the fraudulent ass of Vinicius Salvador and to violently shave it up against the cage with a 12-punch combination that sends Vinicius Salvador to the land of wind and ghosts. Pressure makes diamonds, and pressure breaks fraudulent fighters. And that is what CJ Vergara is going to do to Vinicius Salvador. That's why I parlayed him up. And I'm also going to be looking at a CJ Vergara round 3 bet. I'm hoping to get plus 1,400, but we will see how it goes. 83 of you still hanging out live in here. I think we had 100 of you here live at one point. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out here on Just a Tip with your Uncle Weezy. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And please consider joining the Patreon, where you can get access to the best stats that are available right now. I curate all these stats for myself. I update all of them myself, and all these phenomenal spreadsheets that you see are available on my Patreon, so that you can make more informed betting decisions by having all the information at your fingertips. Thank you guys for hanging out. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 281, and I will see you guys tomorrow right here for Ask Weezy, and tomorrow on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel for the DFS show with my guys DFS by the Numbers, Monk, and Gordo. Have a great night, everybody, and I hope everybody makes a ton of money on this brilliant UFC 291 card. Have a great night, everybody.